Milo first started moving because of the dog next door. By the time anyone at the shelter understood why, that dog was already gone. For 9 days, Milo hasn't eaten in front of anyone. He hasn't left the back wall of Kennel A 408-1192. A red sticker above his door reads, "Restricted Handling." The kind of label that answers questions before anyone thinks to ask them. Families walk through Corridor D every Saturday, reading the kennel cards as they go. Most stop for a second at Milo's door. They see the sticker. Then they notice him pressed flat against the concrete, his eyes following them while the rest of his body remains completely still. After that, they keep walking. They don't walk far. In the next kennel, a 10-month-old dog named Finn is already standing against the gate. His tail keeps moving, and one oversized ear flops with every bounce. He gives one cheerful bark at nothing in particular. A family crouches in front of him. A little girl laughs. Nobody looks back at Milo. By the time Finn is adopted, Milo will have moved more, eaten more, and shown more of himself than he has in weeks. Almost none of it will make it into his file. Priya has been coming to Corridor D every Saturday for 2 months. It is the section nobody else really fights over. She always stops at Milo's kennel first. "Hey, buddy," she says, crouching near the gate. Her voice stays low. "It's just me." Milo doesn't move from the wall, but his eyes find her and remain there. Priya slides a piece of chicken through the bars and places it a few inches inside the gate. Then she keeps talking about her drive, the weather, and nothing in particular. It is the way people fill a silence when it feels as though something should be happening. Milo watches the chicken. He doesn't take it. Priya waits for 10 minutes. Somewhere during that time, Milo's breathing slows and begins to even out. But she is watching his eyes, not his ribs. She misses it. Priya logs the visit the way she is supposed to. No response, no food taken. She underlines the entry as though it matters more than anything else that happened in front of her. Over the next week, she changes the details. She sits farther back, visits during quieter hours, and brings better treats. Nothing changes on paper. Milo remains against the wall while the notes keep piling up with some version of the same conclusion. One afternoon, a staff member stops beside the kennel while Priya is packing up. "You're wasting your time on that one," he says. His tone is not unkind. "Some of them just don't want people." Priya doesn't answer. She looks through the gate at Milo, already still again, his eyes half lowered. She returns the following Saturday anyway. By day 9, the shelter director adds another line to Milo's file. Limited adoption potential, behavioral concerns. It is not cruelty. It is caution, written carefully and without much room left for doubt. Enough notes like that can quietly remove a dog from ordinary adoption consideration. Priya reads the new entry outside Milo's kennel. Then she looks through the bars. He is exactly where he always is, and he's watching her read it. Thursday is yard rotation day. When temperament allows, dogs go outside in supervised pairs with an open exit and someone ready to step in. Milo is cleared for it technically. He has simply never shared the yard with another dog. Finn spots him as soon as the gate opens and bounds straight over, loose-bodied and fast, his tail held high. Milo freezes. He doesn't crouch or retreat. He simply becomes still, all at once, as though something inside him has stopped. Finn gets within a few feet, then veers toward the grass. He follows the fence line, circles toward the gate, and keeps sniffing as he moves. He never closes the final stretch of distance. Milo remains where he is, but his breathing changes. Priya can see his ribs beginning to move more evenly from where she stands behind the fence. It is a change she never noticed during her own visits. A few minutes later, Finn drifts closer and lies down about 6 feet away. He rests his chin on his paws and watches a bird on the fence. Milo turns his head. Not just his eyes this time, his whole head, enough to follow Finn. Over the next few sessions, The same pattern continues. When Finn remains loose and doesn't press him, Milo edges a few inches away from the wall. When the yard stays open and no one reaches toward him, he sometimes lies down instead of remaining rigid. Then, with Finn asleep in a patch of sun, Milo drinks from the water trough. No one has seen him do that outside his kennel since intake. The official entry reads, "Dog followed another dog across yard. Normal parallel behavior." Priya reads it twice. The description isn't wrong. It simply leaves out the 6 feet Finn always keeps open and the way Milo's shoulders lower when nobody reaches for him. It also leaves out the fact that Milo chose to drink with another living thing nearby instead of waiting until the corridor was empty. Priya begins keeping her own notes on a folded piece of paper inside her jacket. He moves when Finn stops. He settles when no one closes the distance. Meanwhile, Finn's popularity keeps growing. One family visits twice in the same week and asks about adoption paperwork before leaving the second time. Priya hears about it from another volunteer. She begins doing the calculation nobody else seems to be doing. If Finn leaves, the neighboring kennel becomes empty, and whatever has been happening in the yard may disappear with him. Priya takes her notes to Tessa Ward, the shelter's behavior coordinator. "It changes when Finn turns away," she says. "Not when he gets close, when he backs off." Tessa doesn't answer immediately. She reads the notes in the hallway, taking longer than a hallway conversation usually allows. The family returns on Monday with an approved application. There's paperwork, a new collar, and a car waiting outside with the windows open. It happens quickly, the way adoption sometimes does when a dog makes the decision easy. Finn's final walk through Corridor D comes shortly after 2. He moves the way he always does, tail raised, sniffing at nothing in particular. As he passes Milo's kennel, Milo turns his head all the way around. It isn't a glance. He follows Finn through the entire corridor, watching until the front doors close behind him. The kennel next door sits empty that afternoon. A staff member hoses the floor, refills the water bucket for whichever dog arrives next, and moves on. Milo doesn't. By Wednesday, he has stopped crossing into the yard. He eats less than half his food and returns to the back wall, farther away than before. It is as though none of the movement from the previous 2 weeks had happened. The file is updated on Thursday. Regression noted following prior improvement. Recommend review of placement eligibility. A review means a countdown. Priya reads the update outside Milo's kennel. For the first time, what she feels is closer to anger than sadness. "He didn't regress," she tells Tessa. "The only thing that changed is Finn's gone. That's not the same thing." Tessa doesn't dismiss her, but she doesn't agree yet. After 6 years in the job, she knows hope and evidence are not the same thing. "Show me," she says. Tessa pulls up the yard footage from the previous 2 weeks and watches it in silence, rewinding several moments. She watches Finn close the distance, then stop short. She sees Milo's weight shift backward, then gradually shift less across the later sessions. She watches him drink water with another dog 8 feet away instead of waiting until he is completely alone. Then she opens the intake report. It describes pressure near Milo's neck during restraint and a growl during containment. Nothing before the growl was documented because no one was recording the intake. They were only reacting to what happened at the end. Tessa leans back from the screen. "The question isn't why he won't engage," she says. "It's what conditions led him." She requests a formal reassessment. Reaching the evaluation wing requires moving Milo through a narrow staff doorway. It is barely wide enough for one handler and one dog, with walls close on either side. There is no room to create distance. The handler attaches the leash and gives a light pull toward the doorway. Milo plants his feet. The leash tightens and the door frame closes around him. His ears pin back. His weight shifts away, but there is nowhere left to go. Then the growl comes, low and sharp enough to make the handler step back on instinct. Grant Keller reads the incident report that afternoon. He approves every foster and adoption exception in the building, which means he also carries the responsibility if one goes wrong. This is exactly what the marker was for, he tells Tessa. He growled during a routine transfer. That's not context, that's the dog. Watch the whole clip first, she says, not just the growl. At normal speed, the footage appears to support the report. Milo looks calm, and then the warning seems to arrive without explanation. But when Grant watches the sequence more slowly, the picture changes. Milo's ears flatten as the doorway narrows. His weight moves backward several seconds before the handler closes the final distance. His head lowers. His body becomes rigid. Only then does he growl. He gives 4 warnings before he growls, Tessa says. We keep recording the 5th. Grant remains silent and watches the clip again. This time, he's not looking for confirmation of the report. He's counting. Even if you're right, I need to see it hold up without the growl, he says, and without the other dog. He looks back at the paused footage. If this was about Finn, then the moment Finn disappeared, so did the proof. It is a fair condition. Tessa arranges the next test differently. There will be no narrow doorway and no forced movement through the corridor. Milo enters the yard by himself. From there, an open gate gives him access to the quiet, carpeted back office without a leash pulling him inside. Priya sits several feet away, turned slightly to the side. She says nothing. There are no treats in her hand, and no invitation to come closer. There is only an open door and a person asking him for nothing. 11 minutes pass before Milo moves from the corner he chose. Then he lies down. Later, he takes 3 bites from a bowl that nobody is holding. He stops before finishing the rest. Near the end of the session, Milo crosses half the room and settles closer to the doorway. His back is partially turned, and Priya remains a few feet away. It is an affection, but it is a choice, made without another dog to follow and without anyone reaching toward him. Grant watches the footage afterward without saying much. Finn didn't fix him, Tessa says. He showed us what Milo needed. It turns out Milo can do it without him. Grant opens the file and writes beside the red sticker in his own handwriting. Context-dependent risk. Structured foster candidate. Restrictions maintained. It isn't a rescue. It's a correction. If your dog's reactions seem unpredictable, or you're struggling with fear, growling, shutdown, or reactivity, the earlier signals matter. Learning to recognize them can help you respond before the situation escalates. We left a recommendation in the description that may help you understand what your dog is trying to communicate. The decision only opens a door. Whether Milo could do anything with it is still unproven. Mara Voss has fostered 11 dogs before Milo. Her house is quiet in a way the shelter never was, with more trees than traffic outside and a refrigerator that hums too loudly in the kitchen. The back room is arranged the way Tessa requested. There's a bed in the corner, water near the entrance, and a baby gate instead of a closed door. Milo can see the rest of the house, but nobody decides when he has to enter it. For the first 3 days, he remains behind the gate. Mara doesn't coax him forward. She simply continues living around him, reading in the next room, running the dishwasher, and letting the television play softly in the evening. On the 4th day, Milo's bowl is empty for the first time. Mara refills it and says nothing. The progress that follows arrives in small pieces. Milo crosses the gate once, just far enough to smell the hallway, then retreats into the room. A delivery truck backfires outside one afternoon, and he flattens against the floor. 4 minutes later, he gets back up. That is the new part. Not that he stopped reacting. That he recovered. By the 5th week, Milo can enter the hallway without immediately retreating behind the gate. One evening, Mara is reading on the couch. The lamp is on, and the house is quiet, except for the familiar hum from the kitchen. Milo walks out of the back room on his own. He crosses the living room and lies down several feet from the couch. His back is partially turned, the same posture he once held against the shelter wall when there was nowhere else to go. But there is an open doorway behind him now, and he isn't using it. Mara doesn't reach for him. She continues reading and allows him to stay. He hadn't needed to become a different dog. He had needed people to give him room to choose before asking him to prove anything. Sometimes, the kindest thing we can give a dog isn't more attention, it's enough space to choose what happens next. What did Milo's story make you see differently?